Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be discussing Suzanne Morphew. She is a mother of two. She went missing on Mother's Day, May 10th of 2020 from Salado, Colorado. Her body was later found September 22nd near Moffett, Colorado in 2023. Her husband, Barry Morphew, has recently been indicted for first-degree murder for her death. He was taken into custody on Friday, June 20th in Arizona. He is now awaiting extradition, but he's being held on a $3 million bond. I'm just going to read through some articles that I came across and a couple of YouTube videos that in the beginning of this case I was actively following it. There's a YouTuber named Tyson Draper. He was boots on the ground and was out in the area doing a search and making a video, and was encountered by Barry Morphew, and there's an interview of that I'm going to also add to this video. Hopefully justice is on the way for Suzanne Morphew. So I'm just going to go ahead and start on this, and let's just dive in. All right, so Barry Morphew indicted for the murder and the death of his wife, Suzanne. This is posted by Ben Marcus, June 20th, 2025. A grand jury indicted Barry Morphew on Friday, charging him with first-degree murder in the 2020 death of his wife, Suzanne Morphew. Morphew was taken into custody on Friday in Arizona, according to a press release from 12th Judicial District Attorney Ann Kelly. Federal, state, and local law enforcement have never stopped working toward justice for Suzanne, Kelly said in a statement. The 12th Judicial District Attorney's Office stands in solidarity with Suzanne's family and the citizens of Chaffee County and Saskatchewan counties in pursuing the grand jury's indictment. Suzanne went missing on Mother's Day in 2020, and her case was embraced by true crime podcasters across the country, some who traveled to Colorado to search for her. Suzanne's body was eventually discovered near Moffett, Colorado in 2023 by agents of the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. The coroner ruled her death a homicide and found evidence of tranquilizer chemicals in her remains. Investigators believed that Moffett had used animal tranquilizer and found a tranquilizer gun and some other supplies in the home that the couple shared, but no chemicals. Morphew was previously arrested and charged with murder in the case in 2021 before his wife's remains were discovered, but the charges were dropped in 2022 at the request of prosecutors without prejudice, meaning charges could be refiled. The new indictment lays out what remains a largely circumstantial case against Morphew. There are no witnesses to Suzanne's death. There is no smoking gun. But this time, there is a body and evidence in Suzanne's death that ties it to a chemical Barry Morphew acknowledged using in the past. Morphew's attorney said the new case is like the old case in one important respect. Yet again, the government allows their predetermined conclusion to lead their search for evidence, said attorney David Beller in a statement. Barry maintains his innocence. This case has not changed, and the outcome will not either. The indictment pieces together a meticulous timeline of events using data from his and her cell phones along with data generated by his truck. Perhaps as important, should the case reach trial, the indictment relies on periods when his phone was turned off and his truck failed to provide data, despite evidence it's moving. Investigators also moved proactively to anticipate possible defenses, finding that only 3 people could even remotely be connected to a jumbled mix of DNA found in the glove compartment. Investigators moved proactively to anticipate possible defenses, finding the only 3 people that could even remotely be connected to a jumbled mix of DNA found in the glove compartment of Suzanne's car, and none of them have any involvement in the case. The timeline, as laid out by the indictment, looks like this. The last time anyone heard from Suzanne was 2:11 p.m. on May 9th, when she sent a message to a man with whom she was having an affair. 32 minutes before Barry Morphew returned to the home. From that point forward, her phone was never used again. At around 5 p.m., May 10th, 2020, a neighbor called Barry Morphew, who had left the home early that morning, and told him that his daughters were concerned because they couldn't reach Suzanne on her cell that day. Morphew instructed his neighbors to check the house and look for her bike. When they couldn't find her on the bike, Morphew instructed the neighbor to call the sheriff. Officers responded to the home near Salida about 45 minutes later. The home was locked. Suzanne and her bike were missing. Her bike was located less than a mile from her home. Her bike helmet was located a mile and a half from the Morphew home, about 10 meters off the side of Highway 50. Morphew told investigators that he was out of town on a pre-planned work trip to Broomfield, and he said she was asleep in the home the morning of May 10th when he left around 5 a.m. Investigators discovered that Morphew spent very little time at the Broomfield job site. Besides 2 brief visits to the job site area, electronic evidence and cameras from businesses show him driving around to various locations and discarding unknown items in separate trash cans, reads the indictment. Morphew claimed early on that his relationship with Suzanne was the best, but investigators quickly determined that Suzanne was unhappy in the weeks and months leading up to her disappearance, and she had discussed plans with a close friend to divorce her husband. Suzanne kept notes about the problems in her relationship. She also was carrying on an affair with someone out of state, according to the indictment. Sorry if that wasn't on the screen. Kind of new to this, just bear with me. A forensic download of Barry Morphew's phone found that he had deleted a text chain with Suzanne, but an image from May 6th was recovered. That image revealed a text from Suzanne that stated, "I'm done. I could care less what you're up to and have been for years. We just need to figure this out civilly." A search of the Morphew home turned up a tranquilizer rifle in a safe, along with packages of Pune Dart brand tranquilizer darts. In the clothes dryer were shorts Barry Morphew appeared to be wearing on May 9th and a needle cap for the tranquilizer dart. A search of Barry's phone, it was turned off at 2:47 p.m. on May 9th, 2020, only a few minutes after he arrived home at the residence where Suzanne Morphew sent her last electronic communication to anyone. Investigators also found an irregular gap in record activities from the infotainment system on Morphew's truck in the days around Suzanne's disappearance. The first time Barry Morphew faced charges in this case, Suzanne's body had not yet been found. The lack of a victim made murder particularly hard to prove. Then, in 2023, the body was found, after scientists determined Suzanne had been exposed to the same type of tranquilizer that Morphew said he previously used to sedate deer. Investigators searched for anyone else in the area at the time of Suzanne's death who may have had access to these types of tranquilizer chemicals found in her remains. That's a specific blend called BAM. And I am not going to be able to pronounce those words. So if you'd like, Google search it, look it up, find out what it is. It says that Barry Morphew used in his prior work in Indiana. But use of those chemicals, available only by prescription, was usually in southern Colorado. Investigators tried to find anyone outside of wildlife officers and veterinarians with access to these drugs. According to the indictment, ultimately, the prescription records show that when Suzanne Morphew disappeared, only one private citizen living in that entire area of the state had access to BAM, Barry Morphew. Morphew has maintained his innocence throughout, while the case has had more twists and turns than most. The original district attorney who charged Barry with murder in 2021, Linda Stanley, was disbarred by the state of Colorado following several instances of misconduct related to the Morphew case and a separate high-profile case. Stanley was a frequent guest on shows about the Morphew case where she was accused by the state authorities of making improper extrajudicial statements about the case and enlisted her own employee to initiate a criminal investigation against the judge presiding over the case in retaliation for his rulings. Those who have defended Barry Morphew continue to believe in his innocence. Not only is he a loving father, but he was a loving husband, said Iris Eaton, who defended Morphew in 2021. She does not represent him now. I've handled thousands of cases, and I've never seen prosecutors mishandle a case so recklessly. This case was fumbled so terribly. 3 prosecutors were penalized. Eaton continued in a message to CPR News. After Barry's case was rightly dismissed, I dedicated the second half of my career to ensure what happened to Barry doesn't happen to another innocent person. The couple's children have also stood by their father, accompanying him after charges were dismissed. Morphew sued the district attorney for malicious prosecution, a case which was dismissed by a federal judge who found that while the original prosecution was flawed, it was not malicious. Now it all begins anew. Colorado will seek to extradite Morphew from Arizona. When he returns, he will be held on a $3 million cash bond. All right, so this article is probably going to say some of the same things, but I'm going to go ahead and show this and read this out because this talks a lot about who Suzanne Morphew was. Suzanne Morphew vanished 5 years ago. Inside her disappearance and why prosecutors claimed she was hunted by her husband. This is posted by Emily Krauser, again updated on June 20th, 2025. So this was Suzanne and her husband, Barry. Suzanne Morphew was reported missing on May 10th, 2020, and her remains were found more than 3 years later. Her husband, Barry Morphew, was charged in connection with her murder a year after her disappearance. Prosecutors alleged that Barry hunted Suzanne, but the charges against him were dropped in April of 2022, only for a grand jury to later indict him on June 20th, 2025. Suzanne Morphew allegedly went for a bike ride on Mother's Day 5 years ago and was never seen again. Her bike and helmet were later found in separate locations without significant damage, according to CNN and her husband, Barry Morphew. He did post a video plea for his wife, and I have that pulled up. I will be showing that. The public later learned that the couple were allegedly having marital difficulties. Authorities even told Barry that Suzanne had been having an affair with an old high school classmate, to which he allegedly responded, "Maybe in God's eyes, this was his way of resolving something." On May 25th, Barry was arrested and charged with murder after deliberation, tampering with physical evidence, and attempting to influence a public servant in connection with his wife's death, court records showed. Barry pleaded not guilty to the charges, posted a $500,000 cash bond, and was released from jail September 2021. The charges were dropped without prejudice in 2022, and a year later, Barry filed a $15 million lawsuit against the agencies that arrested and detained him, but his case was later dismissed in September 2024. Barry was separately accused of voter fraud for submitting a presidential ballot in Suzanne's name. He pleaded guilty and avoided jail time in accordance with his plea agreement. After all this turmoil, in September 2023, Suzanne's remains were finally found in Sasquatch County, Colorado. I apologize for pronouncing that wrong. Nearly 50 miles away from her home. Months later, in August 2024, the El Paso County Coroner's Office released Suzanne's autopsy report, in which her death was ruled a homicide. On June 20th, 2025, officials announced that a grand jury in Colorado had returned an indictment against Barry and charged him with the murder of his wife, per ABC News. Here's everything we know about Suzanne Morphew's disappearance 5 years after she was last seen. Who was Suzanne Morphew? Well, I know that she was a beautiful woman. I've seen a few videos of her. She had two beautiful daughters. She seemed to love them very, very much. And she just seemed like she was unhappy and done with her marriage and wanted out. And unfortunately, she wound up no longer with us. Suzanne Morphew was born April 30th, 1971, and grew up in Alexandria, Indiana. She had at least two siblings, a brother, Andrew Mormon, and a sister, Melinda Mormon. Suzanne and her husband, Barry, met in Indiana and moved to Salida, Colorado in 2018. They were married for 25 years and shared two grown daughters, Mallory and Macy. That family structure, where the husband loves being the provider and the wife loves being the homemaker, they fit to a T. A lifelong friend, Jeff Isles, told People of the couple in July 2020. Suzanne's case file listed her as 5'4" and 120 pounds with blue eyes and brown hair. She had twice beaten cancer and was an avid mountain biker, according to her husband. When did Suzanne Morphew disappear? Barry told authorities that the night before Suzanne went missing, they ate steaks, had sex, and went to bed early, KRDO reported. He said that he last saw her asleep in bed at 5 a.m. the next day, and that he and his daughters had all texted Happy Mother's Day to Suzanne, but never received responses, according to the affidavit. Around 2 p.m. on May 9th, 2020, Suzanne sent her alleged boyfriend, Jeff Libler, a selfie of herself sunbathing, according to a 129-page arrest affidavit, but then didn't respond to his following text. Now retired FBI agent John Grusing testified in court that based on data from Barry's cell phone and truck, he came home at 2:44 p.m. that day. The affidavit stated that Barry admitted to running around the property with a gun and putting his phone in airplane mode at 2:47 p.m. Barry told authorities he was shooting chipmunks, but Grusing wrote the affidavit that he believed he was most likely chasing Suzanne around. Barry's defense contended that data shows he was moving at 45 miles per hour and thus could not have been moving on foot and chasing his wife. A neighbor then reported Suzanne missing on May 10th. Law enforcement and Suzanne's brother, Andrew Mormon, led extensive searches but were unable to find her. After Suzanne vanished, Barry posted an emotional video online pleading for her safe return, along with the FBI tip line number and the promise of a $200,000 reward. Investigators claimed that on that morning, Barry made 5 trash runs during his work trip to Broomfield, Colorado. They alleged that he threw away tranquilizer material during one of those runs, per the Denver Post. In August 2020, Barry told Fox 21 that he believed the sheriff's department mishandled the case and that his wife's disappearance was the most devastating thing that has ever happened to me. When were Suzanne Morphew's remains found? In September 2023, Suzanne's remains were found almost 50 miles away from her home in a remote area of Moffat, Colorado. After the discovery, Barry issued a statement via his lawyer, Iris Eaton, or Itan, I'm not sure how to say that, in which he said that he and his daughters were struggling with immense shock and grief, as they had faith that their wife and mom would walk back into their lives again. In April 2024, the El Paso County's coroner's office released Suzanne's autopsy report, ruling her death as a homicide. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation said in a statement, the autopsy report stated that Suzanne was killed by undetermined means in the setting of BAM. I cannot pronounce all those words. But added that there were no signs of trauma, according to the AP. The report added that these drugs are marketed as a compounded immobilizer for wildlife. In other terms, an animal tranquilizer. according to KKTV. Per the Denver Gazette, Barry told investigators that he used the 3 drugs routinely to immobilize deer before removing their antlers, but one of Barry's lawyers said that the tranquilizer found in Suzanne's bones was very common. Barry's lawyers also told the outlet that a bullet and Suzanne's biking clothing were found with her remains, though it is not clear if the bullet had been used, and that her foot bones and shoes were not in the shallow grave. According to the state of Colorado, Suzanne's homicide is an ongoing cold case. What was Barry Morphew accused of? On May 5, 2021, nearly a year after Suzanne's disappearance, Barry was arrested and charged with murder after deliberation, tampering with physical evidence, and attempting to influence a public servant, court records show. According to a criminal complaint, Barry allegedly killed Suzanne between May 9th and May 10th, 2020. At the time of his arrest, Suzanne was presumed dead, and Barry denied the allegations. Barry owned a landscaping business, and on the day his wife disappeared, he traveled to nearby Broomfield to work on a construction site, investigators said. The couple's daughters were away on a camping trip. In the affidavit released in September 2021, investigators alleged that Barry tried to hunt and control Suzanne like he had hunted and controlled animals, after she allegedly told him that she wanted a divorce. Suzanne had allegedly accused her husband of having had affairs for years, and investigators learned that she had allegedly been having an affair with a former high school classmate, Libler. Suzanne's sister Melinda told local Colorado radio station Heart of the Rockies Radio in May 2021 that her sibling had raised red flags about Barry. She definitely made implications that she had concerns about her safety, Melinda said, adding, and the condition of their relationship had, I think, deteriorated quite a bit over the last several years. What evidence did investigators present against Barry? Prosecutors said that Suzanne texted her husband on May 6, 2020, telling him that she was done and wanted to end the marriage, 9 News reported. In the affidavit, Suzanne is said to have taken clear, articulable steps in January 2020 in attempts to separate from and divorce her husband, Barry. The document also claimed that Barry tried to determine if Suzanne was having an affair by stalking her at their residence, which is allegedly witnessed by one of her friends, and knowingly destroying evidence that his relationship with Suzanne was deteriorating. In August of 2021, Chaffee County Undersheriff Andy Rowich testified in a preliminary court hearing that Barry returned to his house May 10th. He acted oddly. The sheriff alleged that Barry did not attempt to call her phone and was not asking any questions, according to AP. Barry's lawyer, Itan, disputed the description, saying her client followed the task as directed by law enforcement. In the August preliminary hearing, Grusing testified that a dart gun, empty tranquilizer darts, and a needle used to inject tranquilizer into the darts were found in the Morphew's home, as well as a tranquilizer cap. During a cross-examination by one of Barry's attorneys, Drew Nielsen, Gruling said no tranquilizer chemical had been found, and there was no way to know how long the cap had been in the dryer. One of Barry's attorneys later said that his client's dart gun was not working at the time of Susan's disappearance, and claimed he did not have the tranquilizer used in the darts for the gun. According to the AP prosecutors, also said they found 3 unknown DNA samples on the glove compartment of Suzanne's Range Rover, and one was a partial match to an unknown male connected to sexual assault cases in other states, 9 News reported. Barry's lawyer said that the DNA was not part of that sample. In April of 2022, the authorities dropped the charges against him, as the Colorado Judicial Department told People. A judge granted a request by prosecutors to dismiss the charges without prejudice, which would allow prosecutors to file the charges against Barry again at a later date. In May 2022, Barry and Suzanne's daughters, Mallory and Macy, joined their father for an interview on Good Morning America, the first since the charges were dropped against Barry. It's been an emotional roller coaster, but we feel like we can finally take our first steps in healing, which is a blessing, Mallory said. We just know our dad better than anyone else, and we know he is not involved in our mother's disappearance. Then, on June 20th, 2025, a grand jury indicted Barry and charged him with Suzanne's murder. According to the 12th Judicial District Attorney's Office, he was taken into custody in Arizona and will be extradited to the San Luis Valley to face charges, per ABC News. According to the outlet, District Attorney Ann Kelly released a statement saying federal, state, and local law enforcement have never stopped working towards justice for Suzanne. Kelly continued, the 12th Judicial District Attorney's Office stands in solidarity with Suzanne's family and the citizens of Chaffee and Sasquatch County in pursuing the grand jury's indictment. So this picture is of Barry and Mallory and Macy. I believe this is in 2022 when charges were dismissed the first time. Just a year after she went missing, Barry was charged with voter fraud, specifically felony forgery of public records and a misdemeanor elections mail ballot offense after casting Suzanne's ballot for then President Donald Trump in 2020. In July 2022, Barry pled guilty to forgery and was fined and assessed $600. Okay, so this is the video that Barry Morphew had released early on in his wife's disappearance.
Oh, Suzanne, if anyone is out there that can hear this, that has you, please, we'll do whatever it takes to bring you back. We love you, we miss you, your girls need you. No questions asked. However much they want, I will do whatever it takes to get you back. Honey, I love you, and I want you back so bad.
Okay, so that was a plea that he had put out. Kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies just because of his demeanor. I mean, at first, it's like, okay, he's innocent until proven guilty, but that's still kind of strange. The next thing that I'm going to show is a video done by a YouTuber, Tyson Draper. He was boots on the ground. This was early on, and he was out in the area where Suzanne's bike was found, and he encountered Barry Morphew, and it was quite the encounter. So I will play that next.
My name's Tyson Draper. I'm from Arizona.
Okay.
So
What happened?
okay.
Yeah, do you mind putting that in your pocket?
Oh, not a problem. Not a problem. No, it's not on, bro. It's not on.
We've had a lot of media
Yeah.
bother us, and obviously this is very emotional.
Oh, absolutely, bro.
Private from me. But we've searched. It's never going to hurt to retrace searches. But we've searched a 200-mile radius.
What? Really?
All of the mountains have been covered so far. But obviously, we're going to miss things.
Right.
So let me show you what happened. And I do have a reward.
There is a reward?
$210,000 reward. The bike was found at the bottom of the hill by that tree where the people.
So, just real quick, I do remember watching this immediately. I've been subbed to Tyson Draper since the beginning of this. I remember watching this, and at first I was like, dude, he's just a husband out there searching for his wife, and then as things kind of went on and as the years go by, it's like, it's just so eerie to watch this again. So, yeah, just very eerie.
Oh, really?
The first night there was a mountain lion the officer seen it walk by the car, so we thought maybe she got attacked by a lion. We thought maybe she wrecked coming down this hill, a car coming around the corner fast, and maybe was disoriented and got in the river. We've covered all of this really good, this triangle, with search and rescue. So we're pretty comfortable that she's not in this triangle between the RV park, your truck, this road, and then the next road. But what seems to have happened from the investigators, and they don't give much, and I've got private people working for me, is maybe she was abducted right here. And they found an article going west of hers. They won't tell us what it is. So they sent another team after they found the article that covered this hillside all the way down to the river pretty good. My concerns were this way and that way if it was the cat, because the cats, they drag their prey up the mountain and out of people's. We can't find sign for the cat, but we got rain like right away.
Yeah.
Could have washed away sign.
So they found her bike just right against that tree down there?
Well, no, it was on the ground. It was, the wheel was facing, and the sheriff department, they screwed everything up. They shouldn't have touched it.
Oh,
So
really?
they left it. It's evidence. They pulled it up, and then the sheriff we had cars over here. Well, the sheriff let everybody drive through here, covering all, or messing up all the evidence. They were walking all over this area.
Now, I'll see if I can find the video. There was a video of the police on the scene when they actually found the bike, and Barry Morphew pulls up. He gets out. He's all kind of excited. You know, his wife had just been reported missing. Supposedly, he's just showing up to the scene, and he went over to the bike and was touching on the bike. And it was kind of weird, you know, hindsight 2020. It's like, okay, was that... So your fingerprints were on the bike? Like, what was the reasoning there, dude? It's so weird looking back on it now. And then now knowing he's been indicted on it, let's hope justice comes.
Which if somebody abducted her, they would have had foot tracks. They would have fingerprints on the bike.
And that would have all been gone.
They let 10 other people touch the bike.
Oh, man.
I mean, we was really upset that first night. I was in Denver, so...
Oh, you were?
I didn't get here until 9 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
And my friend's an Army Ranger, and he knows this stuff better than anybody. He did 400 tours in Iraq, Afghanistan.
Oh, is that...
So what I would say, if you want to help, I would say this way, you're the least covered on the mountainside.
So you don't know where that article was, though? Was it by the road, or they won't even... They won't say, huh? Well, Barry, I'm glad you filled me in, man. I was... Oh, you had somebody behind you. I was hoping I'd run into you because I can't even imagine what you're going through. That's what I've heard. We're totally in love. We got 2 best kids, closest family. It's just one of them things.
Okay, so what you're seeing in the view there is, this is Barry Morphew's truck, and I believe that is Barry Morphew's mother who is getting into the passenger side of the pickup. And again, a shout out to Tyson Draper. If you have a chance, go over to his YouTube channel and sub up, check out all of his videos. He did a great job on this. He's also followed other cases as well. He really put a lot into this, and I for one appreciate him going and being boots on the ground and having the cojones to go and do this and meet even possibly with a suspected murderer. It's kind of scary if you think about it in real life, you know.
And you know, they have to investigate.
Yeah. Well, get your name cleared, and then...
Well, and they told me that it's cleared. I don't know if it's on me, if it was me.
Yeah, well, they're going to, man. They're going to be too, because I mean, you got to look at, especially in Colorado, there's been so many cases where like Patrick Frazee, Christopher Watts, you know, these guys get on there and they act like, you know, they didn't do anything, and so I mean, naturally people are going to be skeptical in the beginning, you know, but
you just came.
And of course, also for those of you that may not know, Tyson is doing this kind of inconspicuously. He's got the camera in his pocket. That's why the view is like it is. Again, make sure and go to his channel. You can watch all of this there. Make sure and give him the views, give him a thumbs up, and subscribe if you like what he has to offer.
Yeah, I was in the Pagosa Springs area, and I've been kind of hearing about this, and so I thought I'd just come help, man. And what can I do for you, bro?
We've got a good group of friends and stuff. The best thing that you could do if you're a hiker and you're an outdoorsman,
Yeah.
just get out there and cover some ground.
Okay.
Yeah, find something. If you find anything, don't touch it. Take a picture of it. Give it to the police. Put it in there. Let them come, because if there's an article, they need to DNA it without being touched.
Absolutely.
And we have found men's clothing. We found a group of men's clothes up by the lake. Pieces that they DNA tested and been done.
So Fooses is up that way?
You go up to the right.
Yeah.
And that lake's up there, and then the Fooses Trail. You can drive all the way to the trailhead. And this is the Colorado Trail. You cross 50, where they park up top.
Yeah.
And that trail goes all the way to Denver.
Okay.
And we've covered, I had school friends come the first few days, so we had a bunch of guys that we covered that road with.
Up in there.
But the only thing, this is a tough one, and my friends aren't in shape like you, so getting up those sides of those hills and stuff is kind of tough.
Well, let me ask you a quick question, Barry. So you were in Denver, but how long before somebody noticed that she was gone? And
well, it was Mother's Day.
It was Mother's Day.
We had two daughters that were coming home from a trip, and I had that job in Denver that I wanted to get started on Sunday. Set it up for my workers. My workers were coming in Sunday night. We were going to work Sunday night. They were going Monday, but being the owner, I wanted to get everything lined up so that they didn't have to stand and wait on me Monday morning and just get busy working.
right.
So I told my wife, I said, listen, the girls are going to be home. They want to spend Mother's Day with you.
Again, sorry for the sound quality on this. They are outside, plus the truck is running. It's really, really hard to hear. It might help if you have some good headphones put on and turn the volume up. Again, check out Tyson Draper and look at his channel on YouTube. He does a lot of different things.
Mind if I go this day, but this is the next one. So everybody's just not like, and the girls get home over together. And that's what we thought was going to happen. The girls were running late, so they texted after Mother's Day. She didn't text back. So we went to, or they called my neighbors and said, listen, it's Mother's Day. I'm a little worried. And will you go check the house? So the neighbor went and checked the house. Saw that her car was there with the bike in front. She called me in Denver and said, hey, we're just a little worried. And I go, well, I am too. Why don't we just call the police? Just be safe. I'll report home right now.
Yeah, that's what it was. Damn, bro, I'm really sorry, man. I can't imagine what you're going through, but it sounds like you got a really good support system.
Yeah.
And do you want me to leave my number or anything? And in case you need me, I'll be here for the next. And then give me your number. Write it down because my phone's charging in the truck. But just Barry, give me.
Yeah, I'll text you.
Yeah, text me your number, and then if I find anything, I will. I'll let you know.
Go ahead.
Hi.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
I know we're doing COVID and all that,
Yeah.
but I can't imagine that. Are you grandma?
Yeah, Barry's mom.
Barry's mom? Oh, Barry, I feel for you, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're genuine on what you're doing here, then I appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you're an undercover new person?
Oh no, no.
They're not coming for you. They killed me.
Yeah. Oh, they will, Barry. They will, and probably the worst is yet to come. I hate to say that, but just ride the storm out, man. And the truth always comes out in the end, bro. So.
Hey, thanks.
Hey, good to meet you guys. Take care.
Okay, so this next video that I'm going to show here, this is Tyson Draper, just moments after his encounter with Barry. This is just his quick thoughts. I thought it was kind of revealing, you know, how he was a little shook, you know, which, I mean, I would be too, honestly. So, anyway, I'm just going to play this real quick, and then we'll move on to the next.
Okay, here's my theory as I walk away from this place. After looking at where Barry told me the bike was found and actually hiking down in there, my theory is that she did not crash right here, that the bike was staged, because she would have had broken bones, there would have been blood. It's a really rocky area right there at the base of that tree, so there would have been blood everywhere. And he did say there was some rain, but I don't know, man. He offered like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 scenarios of what could have happened to her. It was pretty bizarre. Judge for yourself, watch the video. But that was interesting talking to Barry Morphew. Again, as I walk out of here, I'll show you where she supposedly crashed. I'm on 225 right now, heading up the road to the 50. You can see the crime tape on that.
You know, if you look down in that ravine down there and see how steep that is, he's right. There'd definitely be some blood, some scratches. There'd be something to show that there was a bike, even just a mountain bike going down that hill.
Thing over there that I showed you in my other video, but right here is supposedly where she went off the cliff. They found her bike right down there, so she would be bloodied and she would have broken bones, and I don't think there's any way she could walk out of there. So I don't know, I suspect foul play, but who knows. Again, I'll reserve judgment until the end. All you haters out there, you're going to hate no matter what. That's all right. I'll continue to make these videos. Hopefully we can find Suzanne safe and sound. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Okay, so this is Tyson Draper's channel. Make sure you go there, give him a like, a share, and a subscribe. He does some good stuff. He's got other cases on here as well. Just give him a big shout out. Okay, so this is the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. Suzanne Morphew autopsy reports. This was posted on April 29th, 2024. Colorado Bureau of Investigation, CBI, Salida, Colorado. The agencies investigating the Suzanne Morphew case are aware the autopsy report of Suzanne is now complete and determined her cause of death to be homicide by undetermined means in the setting of BAM. Those are big words. I apologize. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation and our law enforcement partners understand and appreciate the public interest surrounding this case, said CBI Director Chris Schaefer. The investigative team assembled to work this case continued to follow the evidence and only the evidence as we seek justice for Suzanne's death. Suzanne's remains were found near the town of Moffett in Sasquatch County. It is the 12th Judicial District. The investigative team will continue to consult with the Judicial District Attorney Ann Kelly. The autopsy report was shared. If you have tips, you can call this line right here, the Morphew tip line, 719-312-7530, or you can email right here. And for copies of this public record, you can email right here to get your own copy of it. I believe this is after when things were dropped the first time. Yeah, 2 years ago. Okay, this is a video done by GMA Good Morning America. This was after charges were dropped against Barry the first time.
Now we're going to check back into the story of Suzanne Morphew. The Colorado mother vanished on Mother's Day 3 years ago. Her husband Barry had been charged with murder, but he's now suing prosecutors after they dropped all charges last year. Ariel Reshef has an exclusive interview with Morphew and his daughters. Good morning, Ariel.
Good morning to you guys. Barry Morphew says his life is ruined. That $15 million civil suit accuses prosecutors and law enforcement of lying and withholding evidence, focusing only on Barry Morphew and humiliating him. But authorities tell us they didn't drop the charges because they thought Barry was innocent. They felt they didn't have enough evidence to convict without Suzanne's body.
This morning, demands for justice for Suzanne Morphew, 3 years after the Colorado mom mysteriously vanished on Mother's Day in 2020. Authorities believe she is dead, her body never found, now officially classified a cold case.
Somebody in this community needs to keep her name out there.
Suzanne's husband Barry initially charged with first-degree murder and tampering with evidence, but those charges dropped just before his trial. Now Barry and his daughters Macy and Mallory are speaking exclusively to ABC News, claiming his life has been ruined by false accusations.
What have these last 3 years been like for you?
Very, very sad. Very confusing. Just so traumatic. Like literally our worst nightmare.
Did you have anything to do with the disappearance of your wife?
Absolutely not. It's very hurtful to lose your reputation and your integrity.
Barry filing a $15 million civil suit against prosecutors, the sheriff, and several investigators.
So I know that 15 million is a huge number, but I don't think that, in my mind, that covers any of the damage that's happened to Barry and the girls.
They know he's innocent. And if they would just look for Suzanne outside of where they hypothesized Barry could have possibly buried her remains, they could find her.
His daughters standing by him.
You never had a shred of doubt once you heard the evidence from law enforcement against your dad?
I've never had a shred of doubt. Not one.
Prosecutors say at the time they believed that they were close to finding Suzanne's body and dropped those charges against Barry, hoping for additional evidence. Authorities tell ABC News they still believe Barry Morphew could be involved in his wife's disappearance and aren't ruling out future charges.
Law enforcement, the DAs, believed that they had their guy, and they believe that there's a mountain of evidence against you. There's just not Suzanne's body.
They're wrong. They've got tunnel vision, and they looked at one person, and they've got too much pride to say they're wrong and look somewhere else.
These charges were dropped without prejudice, which means if authorities feel like there's more evidence, they could charge you again. Do you live with fear of that?
Well, I was innocent the first time they arrested me, so I'm sure it's possible. But I don't have anything to worry about. I've done nothing wrong.
Was there any indication before she disappeared that something was amiss?
No.
Did you observe any fights, arguments, disagreements between your mom and your dad that concerned you before?
No.
Prosecutors offering texts which appear to show a strained marriage, Suzanne referring to Barry as Jekyll and Hyde, and just before she disappeared telling Barry, "I'm done." Suzanne confiding in a friend, "Macy and I had a very tough talk yesterday. She's weary of the tension here. She knows how he is toward me and almost begged me to divorce him. He's still pulling Mal in." But Barry and his daughters deny the marriage was in trouble.
We had a wonderful full life, wonderful marriage. She was just so loving and giving and such a good mother.
Before her disappearance, Suzanne fighting cancer.
And I know that she was going through chemotherapy for the last couple of years before her disappearance, and I know she was going through some hard things and made some bad decisions.
What kind of bad decisions?
She was She was really having trouble with the chemotherapy and the drugs.
Investigators also say she was involved with someone else.
When you found out that Suzanne was having an affair, what was your first thought?
My heart was broke. My heart was broken. I didn't believe it.
What's been the hardest part?
Just not having Mom.
Yeah. Not knowing.
It's really difficult, especially because of the lack of closure we have.
And Barry Morphew has moved out of Colorado because he says the public and media scrutiny has been too much on him and his daughters. The Chaffee County Sheriff's Office and DA Linda Stanley both saying they cannot comment on pending litigation or on ongoing investigations. Bottom line here, guys, Suzanne is still missing and no one has been held accountable. So many questions.
Just really intriguing. Ariel, our thanks to you.
Okay, so yeah, my heart definitely goes out to her daughters. I feel like that they support their father because, you know, they support their father. My heart really goes out to her daughters. That's just so sad that, you know, they've lost their mom and, you know, they've got their dad that, you know, they want to believe in, but yeah, I don't know.
So many odd aspects, including an animal tranquilizer gun and on-again, off-again charges. When Barry Morphew was first charged with his wife Suzanne's murder, she was still missing. Well, that is no longer the case, and now
Barry's recent indictment in Gilbert, Arizona.
Now Barry Morphew finds himself in handcuffs again, found by police here in Gilbert, Arizona, and we are getting our first look at him here. Take a look at this just in minutes ago. Barry Morphew's official new mugshot now booked into the Maricopa County Jail. Suzanne Morphew went missing on Mother's Day back in 2020 from her Colorado home. Her husband, Barry, was the prime suspect in her disappearance and eventually charged with her murder. But that case was dismissed in 2022. And a year later, in 2023, Suzanne's remains were found about 90 miles from her home. According to the new indictment, the toxicology showed a specific substance combination in her system that's used to tranquilize and sedate deer called BAM. Well, Barry Morphew was a deer farmer. The indictment shows when Suzanne disappeared, the only person with a prescription for this BAM substance living in that entire area of the state was Barry Morphew. But he and his team have denied he was responsible for her death.
It was premature because guess what? We're hearing it now, 10 days before trial. No body. There's no evidence. Now the community wrongfully is going to believe that Barry just got away with murder.
That was, of course, before her remains were found. According to the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office, Barry Morphew is now being held here on a $3 million bond. We are now waiting for a press conference out of Colorado to start in about the next hour to explain the new charges and hopefully learn how and why Barry Morphew was here in Gilbert, Arizona, of all places. Interesting.
And so we're learning some details about some possible marital issues and spying. What are we finding out about that?
So what came out after this was that Suzanne Morphew reportedly bought what's considered a spy pen. It was a pen that would record audio conversations and things, and that was reportedly so that she could catch if Barry was having an affair. However, it was also reported that she was also having some sort of affair or conversation with another man. So there were clearly issues, but there was a possible motive here that she wanted out of the marriage. There's also another bizarre aspect. We're talking about that animal tranquilizer gun.
Okay.
Right. So his cell phone, the time of her missing, her disappearance, was tracking all over their home, like all over weird locations, pinging an unusual amount of activity. He told investigators that's because he was chasing a chipmunk with the tranquilizer gun, correct. But the prosecutors and the investigators believe it was in that moment of the pinging all around that something would have happened to Suzanne, possibly him chasing her with this tranquilizer gun. That becomes a huge part of this whole investigation. Her DNA was on the cap of it, found in their drying machine.
There are so many bizarre details to this, but sometimes when you look into cases as convoluted as this, you're like, weird motive, weird alibi. The first we've ever heard of a chipmunk alibi.
I've never heard of that. Obviously, though, when he was first charged, she wasn't found. And of course, we know it's so hard to prove no body homicides. So this time they have a body, they have the toxicology, the autopsy. It shows she died by homicide. Investigators have quite a bit more, and prosecutors now, in terms of evidence on their side than they did before.
And the Gilbert Connect.
So in the one report that I read a little bit ago, it said something about his movements were tracking at 45 miles an hour approximately. I wonder if they had some kind of like gator or like, golf cart style, something that he may have been riding in that he was chasing her from. That is so scary to think of, like there's movies of that, but to think of out there on your own property in the woods running for your life from your own husband, that is just horrible. Now, as I read all this and as I say all these things and put all these videos up in this compilation here, Barry is innocent until proven guilty in the court of law, and all of this is just speculation. None of this proves him guilty, until he goes through court and is on trial and is convicted by a jury. He is innocent until otherwise known. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and play this. This is the 12th Judicial District Attorney's Office press conference that was done just a couple of days ago. This is Fox News 21, and again, it does go into a lot of the same things that I've already read. I'm not going to go ahead and read this again. If you want to find this article, you are definitely able to find that pretty quickly. I'm going to go ahead and play this, and then we'll go on to the next.
Okay, good evening. We were able to start a little bit earlier since we have live streaming up and going. My name is Megan Bagwell. I'm the Director of Administration for the Office of the District Attorney here in the 12th Judicial District. Standing behind me is District Attorney Ann Kelly, that is Kelly, who you'll be hearing from shortly. I also have Sheriff from Saguache County, Dan Warwick, W-A-R-W-I-C-K, Chaffee County Sheriff, Andy Rorick, R-O-H-R-I-C-H, and Colorado Bureau of Investigation, Agent in Charge, Chris Adams, A-D-A-M-S. After District Attorney Ann Kelly's statement, she'll be available for a few questions. Any other questions after that can be directed to media@da12.state.co.us. Thank you.
I appreciate the members of the media that are here today. I scheduled this briefing to provide an update on the investigation that has been in the hearts and minds of the people of Chaffee County since Mother's Day of 2020. Suzanne Morphew was reported missing on Mother's Day 5 years ago. Law enforcement has never stopped working to obtain justice for this mother of two, this daughter, this sister, and this beloved member of the Chaffee County community. Through the tireless efforts of the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office, the Saguache County Sheriff's Office, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, I can announce today that the 12th Judicial District Grand Jury returned an indictment. The grand jury has indicted Barry Morphew on the single count of murder in the first degree. Law enforcement, the Chaffee County community, and Colorado as a whole has never stopped fighting for justice for Suzanne. Cold case homicides are tremendously difficult. They're difficult for the families of the victims and the communities who wait patiently for answers. While it may seem at times that the world forgets about these victims, I can assure you that my law enforcement partners and Colorado's law enforcement community do not forget. Every unsolved murder is a tragedy, and we must never give up on our efforts to find answers in these cases. My office will be prosecuting the indictment as Suzanne's remains were found in Saguache County, which is a county within my jurisdiction, the 12th Judicial District. I am extremely appreciative of Michael Doherty, who is the elected district attorney in Boulder County. He has consistently committed material resources to small rural DA's offices like mine to assist in the sometimes Herculean efforts to bring justice for victims in rural areas of our state. His commitment to rural Colorado he's continued his commitment with this case. He's provided me with the assistance of a chief deputy in the Boulder County District Attorney's Office to assist me with the investigation and the prosecution. Colorado's community of prosecutors is committed to assisting wherever the need arises. In addition to Mr. Doherty's assistance, District Attorney John Walsh of the Denver District Attorney's Office has committed to providing me with appellate guidance during the case proceedings. So today I have with me Chaffee County Sheriff Andy Rorick. I stand united with Sheriff Rorick and Under Sheriff Alex Walker. I stand united in announcing this indictment. Through this process, I have seen firsthand how deeply Sheriff Rorick and Under Sheriff Alex Walker and the entire Sheriff's Department in Chaffee County cares about this case. I am proud and appreciative of our cross-jurisdictional partnership and their hard and excellent work. I also stand with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who has never wavered in its commitment to this investigation, providing essential intelligence and investigative resources and expertise through the years. I also recognize and appreciate our continued partnership with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation has done incredible work, and their CBI agents and analysts have worked very, very hard to advance the goal of finding answers in this investigation. Here representing the CBI is Agent in Charge Chris Adams with CBI's Pueblo office. I also stand with Saguache County Sheriff Dan Warwick, who is here with me as well. He and his office immediately answered the call to action when Suzanne's remains were found in the county he represents. Sheriff Warwick and his deputies are an essential part of this team, responding to the recovery of Suzanne's remains with the highest level of dignity and professionalism. I also want to continue to recognize what I have come to expect in my years as a prosecutor, and that is multi-jurisdictional and multi-state cooperation and partnership. I want to recognize the Arizona Department of Public Safety, who immediately responded to our team's request for assistance in locating and arresting Barry Morphew in the Phoenix area. Mr. Morphew will be held by Arizona authorities pending extradition proceedings in that state. And upon conclusion of those proceedings, Mr. Morphew will be transported to Alamosa County to stand trial on the indictment. This indictment has been unsealed upon the arrest of Mr. Morphew. I asked for this briefing to provide you with an update and provide information to the community. Me and my team recognize the importance of being laser focused on the prosecution and to speak with one voice. And so for that reason, all of the agencies that have been involved in getting us to this place, as well as the prosecutors that have been willing to assist me in this investigation and prosecution, they have all been instructed to send any media requests to my office, and so that's what I'd ask of you. In an effort to be transparent, I'd like to thank the the Office of the Judicial District in this district for making the indictment immediately available, and so you can get a copy of that indictment on the State Judicial's website. It is linked on a page labeled Cases of Interest, and it's under Alamosa. Barry Morphew is presumed innocent in this case, and that presumption remains with him unless and until he is convicted at trial. And so once again, thank you for allowing me to provide an update to the community on this very important case. And I can take a couple of questions if you have them. Yes, sir. And thank you for the question. The question was, what was Barry doing in the Phoenix area? I appreciate the question, and that information was still being gathered. We have been working very, very hard to make sure that we run down anything we can with respect to this investigation, and our law enforcement officers will certainly be following that. Yes, sir.
In the indictment, you noted a pharmacology expert testified that the ban would render the recipient unable to resist any constrictions to the recipient's ability to breathe. Do you believe the dosage of ban was so great it killed her, or that she was so incapacitated she was strangled or something?
And thank you for that question. I am looking forward to having our team present all of those facts in a court of law. Obviously, I would like to be able to provide my comments, but my ethical obligations will not allow me to. However, I am very appreciative of the Judicial Department for making that indictment available, and I look forward to having our team present this case in court. Yes, ma'am.
Why now?
That's a great question. And so we, as prosecutors in Colorado and law enforcement in Colorado, we are very dedicated to making sure that we don't forget the victims of cold case homicides. But we also understand that it is so important to make sure that we have done everything we can to bring a case to court. And we are proud of the work that we've done. Every victim of homicide, murder in Colorado deserves that kind of attention, deserves that kind of work from law enforcement. And I would say that having the opportunity to work on these cases and to bring justice for these victims has been very important to me. Yes? Yeah, let me.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Was Morphew surprised about the news taking place? Was he expecting this?
And thank you for that question. The question is whether or not Morphew, what Mr. Morphew's reaction was. And I can tell you that that's going to be part of the case, and we look forward to presenting that in front of a jury.
So the male DNA was found in Suzanne's car. Are you guys moving forward? Are you guys using that evidence for this trial? Tell us more about that.
And thank you for that question. The indictment has a wealth of information about that particular topic, as well as the probable cause that supports the arrest in this case. And obviously, we are going to do everything we can to make sure that justice is done for Suzanne, and that includes being as thorough as we can about the facts of the case.
Another question. When you arrest Barry in Arizona, so that's still investigating right now with Arizona law enforcement?
So the Arizona Department of Public Safety has been an incredible partner for us. They organized immediately when we asked them to respond when we received the indictment. So I very much want to thank the Arizona Department of Safety. What about you, sir?
What will be the biggest difference between the prosecution of this case and the time versus back in 2021?
And the question is, what would be the difference between the prosecution of this case and other prosecutions? You know, justice for cold case homicide victims remains a priority in the state of Colorado, both for prosecutors and for law enforcement. And that's despite any challenges that we may have had in the history of any particular case. That remains a priority for us. And so we have worked very hard to move forward in the case. This case is a different case, and I would refer you back to the indictment in this case. And we've worked very hard to move forward. Yes, sir.
On an emotional level or on a personal level, and it's okay if you repeat yourself, can you talk about the journey, your journey from the day this was dismissed until today? Just broad strokes, just tell us that story.
Well, thank you for that question. The question is, what has this process looked like, essentially? What has this process been like for the family, for the community, for our law enforcement partners? And I can tell you that it has been a long road. It has been a long road, and the families of the victim have been so patient. The community has been so patient. But I can tell you that our law enforcement officers have never forgot, have never given up, and they have been working so hard to get to the place where we are today. And so it is never enough to say we're just going to forget about it because it's too hard. And so that has been the process for me. And I'll take maybe one more question here in the front.
Can you elaborate further on where Suzanne's remains were found in relation to Moffett? I know it was undisclosed, but can you provide more details about where she was found?
So it was in and around the town of Moffett, and that raises an important question that I want to address. And so the remains of Suzanne Morphew were found in Saguache County, and that's obviously a county in my jurisdiction. And so jurisdiction in this county is appropriate. I can tell you that I have reached out to and contacted my friend and colleague, elected District Attorney Jeff Lindsay, who currently covers Chaffee County. He is in full support of our efforts to prosecute this case here and has committed to providing any resources that we need to prosecute this case.
How did you know Morphew was in Arizona?
And the question is I'm sorry, can you say that again?
How did you know Barry was in Arizona?
And I appreciate that question. We obviously have never given up on this investigation. And so working with our law enforcement partners, we were able to make that determination.
Could anyone else possibly face charges?
So right now we have the indictment in front of us, and we're committed to working hard to get that done. So, and this will be the last question. Thank you so much.
Just one last question. From a community perspective, this community's been through a lot with the district attorney's office, and we've watched you take it over and repair it, stand here with law enforcement, something this community might not have seen in the past. We've watched you build a staff. Now we're at the point where we've got all kinds of television cameras here because you've done what you've done in this particular case. Speak to what kind of satisfaction you have and gotten here, and is the job done with your staff, and can you now move forward?
Well, and thank you. The question relates to the status of our district attorney's office and where we've been in the last 3 years. And thank you for the question. The effort that we undertook to come to the San Luis Valley, that I undertook to come to the San Luis Valley and build the district attorney's office was quite tremendous. But I can tell you that the collaboration of prosecutors across the state to assist me, to assist my staff, to assist law enforcement has been absolutely tremendous. It is a testament to how strong our law enforcement community is and how united the prosecutors in the state of Colorado are. And so assisting me in building the office in the San Luis Valley, that is a testament to the assistance that I've received across the state. So thank you for the question.
Thank you for what you've done.
One last question, and when do you expect Barry Morphew to show up?
Thank you. So he's currently being held by the authorities in Arizona. He will go through a process of extradition, and when that process concludes, he will be then transported back to Colorado. So thank you so much.
Okay, so as this was playing, I was reading through this first paragraph here, and it kind of reminded me of a few things. I remember in the beginning, there was some footage, like right here it says the footage from the hotel. So there was footage from the hotel that Barry was staying at in Broomfield, Colorado, showing him carrying some items in, showing him carrying some items out. There was also, I believe, some footage of him being captured on just cameras around town on local businesses, him dumping things in various dumpsters, things like that. But also, he was supposed to, the reason he was at this hotel, he was getting it set up for his workers to come because they were supposed to be doing a job there in the following day or days, something like that. And I recall one of his employees had given an interview saying that when he arrived at the hotel room, there was an overwhelming smell of bleach in the room, which Barry had been in there. That's, they have footage of him coming in and out of that hotel room, things like that. And And then, of course, just various like cell phone records of Suzanne. Like this says here, police analyzed cell phone data, which showed Suzanne had not communicated electronically with anyone after 2:11 p.m. on May 9th, and that the last use of password-protected account was at 3:08 p.m. Interviews with witnesses indicated that they tried to communicate with Suzanne but got no response, which was out of the ordinary. It goes on to say here that basically Barry's location was all over the place, but the indictment states that Barry's cell phone data showed his phone was turned off during significant periods of time. I think it was actually put into airplane mode, if I'm not mistaken there, and then turned back on. The tranquilizers. This goes on to show, say basically the same things that I've already read out. So I'm not going to read through all that again, but this is Barry's most recent mugshot. Okay, this is Barry after his arrest in Arizona. This is his first court appearance.
Arizona man heading to southern Colorado to face a murder charge. Friday night, Barry Morphew had a decision to make. Would he challenge extradition to Colorado, where prosecutors want to try him for the murder of his wife? Welcome to 12 News at 6 o'clock on this Saturday. I'm Rachel Cole. 12 News journalist Sean Rice tracking the very latest on this high-profile case that's made its way here to Arizona. Sean?
Yeah, Rachel, this is one of the more high-profile murder cases over the last decade in Colorado. Nobody thought there was an Arizona chapter. Well, now there is. Friday morning, detectives with the Arizona DPS placed Barry Morphew in handcuffs after he was indicted for murder in Colorado this week. Right before the clock struck midnight last night, Morphew told an Arizona judge he had no problem waiving his right to challenge being transported back to Colorado to face that murder charge. Now, Morphew has been at the center of multiple Dateline episodes right here on NBC. His wife, Suzanne, previously went missing in Salida, Colorado. This was back on Mother's Day in 2020. Her husband, Barry, was previously charged with first-degree murder, accused of killing Suzanne, but at the time of his arrest, her body had never been found. The case against Barry was rife with prosecutorial misconduct to the point that a judge previously dismissed the case. Then came a surprise back in September 2023. Suzanne Morphew's body was found in a rural part of southern Colorado, and the results of a toxicology report pointed right back at Barry as being the person responsible for killing Suzanne. Property records we obtained yesterday reveal Morphew likely moved here to the Valley after that case was originally dismissed sometime in 2022. He's been paying taxes on a property at a trailer park in Cave Creek for the last several years. Now, in court last night, a judge explained the rights he has to fight being sent to Colorado. Those are rights he ultimately gave up.
Do you understand you have the right to demand that a governor's warrant be signed by both governors of each state before you're returned?
Yes.
And do you understand that you would have a right to bail, in this case, a cash bond of $3 million?
Yes.
And do you want to give up those rights and sign this paperwork?
Yes.
Yeah, those are the rights he has to fight extradition. Now, investigators in Colorado now have 30 days to travel here to Arizona, pick him up at the Maricopa County Jail, and then transport him back to Alamosa County. Until then, he will be held inside that jail on a $3 million cash-only bond. Now, prosecutors in Colorado said yesterday they have never lost sight of this goal, to get justice for Suzanne Morphew. Many across Colorado thought this may be a cold case, a case that's never solved, but this development certainly is a hopeful one for her family. Rachel.
Sean, thank you for tracking that for us. We appreciate it.
Okay, so
I'm Marnie Hughes, and this is Missing. Thank you for joining us. Each week, we cover a missing person case.
Okay, so this is a photo that I came across, and this is Barry Morphew going into the hotel where they think that there was a smell of bleach, and he was there to set up for a job, but I think he was, in my opinion, there's a good chance that he was doing some cleanup with the smell of bleach and things like that. I can't tell if that's a jug of bleach in his hand back there behind the bags or not. I'm not real sure. But anyway, that's what this photo is. This is Suzanne and Barry Morphew. And there's Barry Morphew with his first arrest. And this is Barry Morphew and their daughters. I'm not sure which one is which. I believe their names are Mallory and Macy. And I believe at this time in life, 2025, I believe they are both adults. These are just some photos of them. And then this is him on his first arrest. And that is Suzanne Morphew. This is the bike helmet that she was presumed to have gone missing in. So in regards to this case, there are several other channels that do have coverage of this case. One being Profiling Evil, and I believe Profiling Evil and The Interview Room were a collab channel in the beginning, and then they separated, kind of went their own ways. But Mike King with Profiling Evil has some pretty good videos on this as well. There are other YouTubers that have a lot of different information about the case as well. Feel free to go check it out. Any other information that I come across, I will maybe do another video as things come out. Again, you know, Barry Morphew is presumed innocent until convicted in a court of law. And please remember, you know, Suzanne Morphew. And to be honest, there was, in the beginning of all this, there was a lot of reports that towards the end of her life and their marriage, that there was some domestic violence going on. There was some people who had come out and said that he was being physically abusive to her and that she was scared. If you are in that type of relationship or in that type of situation, please reach out, get the help you need, and, you know, leave the situation. Nothing and no one is important enough to be, you know, have violence committed against you. There are ways out that are safe, you know. You really need to reach out for help. And, you know, my prayers are with Suzanne and her family. Again, parts of her family, Andy, I know in the beginning he coordinated a lot of searches. I know it's been very difficult on her family, her brother, her sister, and I believe shortly after her disappearance, I believe her father passed away, and I'm not so sure that he knew what had happened to his daughter. So it's very sad. Anyway, if you've heard of this story, if I've missed anything or misquoted or misspoke, please let me know. And otherwise, this will probably be a big story over the next year or 2 years, however long it takes for Barry to get to trial. But either way it goes, I sure hope that justice comes for Suzanne Morphew. And that's really all that we can hope for. Anyway, I just want to say thank you again for watching, and share this video out or comment or, you know, some kind of interaction. Anyway, again, have a great day. Thank you.